Chapter: The absurdity of net zero measures. You maybe have heard of net zero. In a nutshell, someone who pollutes, maybe by flying in their private jet to a COP climate conference, can offset their CO2 emissions by paying for carbon credits. And this despite the fact that a significant number of carbon credits funded projects are of questionable value to the climate, and in some cases are blatantly fraudulent. Some carbon credits projects are producing more heating than cooling. The effect of useless carbon credits is that even more CO2 is emitted than would be otherwise the case if such useless things did not exist. For the simple reason that the people who purchase these useless credits thereby feel free to continue emitting CO2. But it is worse than them merely wasting their money on something useless. There is the opportunity cost too. That money would have been far better spent on something that actually has a chance of working to stabilize global temperature, namely, cooling credits. It is the temperature rise that is the primary concern. Stabilizing the temperature and then gradually reducing it should be the primary goal. The goal should not in itself be trying to manage this or that particular gas concentration in the atmosphere. Do you see the important distinction? Cooling credits would pay for solar radiation management in its various form, including putting aerosols such as sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, and by spraying a fine mist of salt water over oceans, marine cloud brightening, and by other means, such as painting roofs with special white cooling paint, etc., etc. These deployments can be monitored in near real time by satellites, and their efficacy measured nearly straight away. Cooling credit payments would be based entirely on proven demonstrable efficacy, and would be far more honest and immediate than bogus carbon credits, which resemble a massive scam in some cases. Cooling credits are quite unlike many of the useless, marginally useful carbon credits projects. For example, tree planting takes decades for the trees to grow to any significant size, and who knows how many will grow and how many die. Or whether someone will chop them down, years after the landowner has been paid his carbon credits money. In other words, the claims regarding how much carbon the trees will sequester can be wildly inaccurate. There is a significant social aspect to net zero too. Those who propose it must dream up ever more draconian measures, limiting personal freedoms, in order to foist their unworkable schemes onto an unwilling public. The public really is not stupid. They know, almost instinctively, when some public policy is going badly wrong. The public maybe does not know all of the details, and this is why the experts have their way, at least for a time, until the downsides become ever more apparent. Remember that the experts were pushing thalidomide pharmaceuticals, which resulted in many thousands of babies being born with physical deformities. Fortunately, some were skeptical of the claims and refused to take thalidomide, including my own mother. I am grateful that she resisted the insistence of her doctor, or I would have been a victim. The instincts she had were of greater truthfulness than the opinion of their expert. One of the climate experts who is desperately pushing net zero policy is Professor Miles Allen of Gresham College. Here he is discussing it. YouTube a just and inclusive net zero. Who should get there first? Miles Allen. The video has not had very many viewings, but nevertheless it is significant. Because this mode of thinking is being pushed into the UK government. I do not know why I become quite so disturbed by all of this, but nevertheless here is my comment below the video. This fixation on net zero is puzzling and somewhat disturbing. It is not going to happen any time soon. Face facts. Even if it miraculously happened tomorrow, that would merely slow down the rate of increase of temperature, because of all the greenhouse gases already in surplus in the atmosphere and dissolved in the oceans. There is only one way to stop the temperature rise equals solar radiation management. I know you despise it. But this is the reality now. It is far from ideal, but it is the least bad option right now. It is eminently affordable, and can be quickly deployed using existing technology that just needs minor adjustment to repurpose it. And please stop with the termination shock bull **T scaremongering. Or at least be honest and consistent, and use that same argument to oppose carbon capture and storage. But why no scaremongering against CCS? Maybe because it is not scalable, and even if it were, it is impractical purely based on energy balance. We have to get real. This is the only planet that is habitable. And get real before the various tipping points are reached. And no, I am not funded by oil companies, before all the ad hominem attacks start. Ad hominem attacks indicate that you have run out of rational arguments. I am not sure why exactly I feel so annoyed and frustrated. Maybe it is because I can see that intelligent people such as Professor Allen, who have not really thought things through, pushing for something that they must know is not working and is unlikely to work in any sort of useful timescale. And even if net zero were miraculously achieved, the temperature would continue upwards for decades longer, due to the huge inertia in the climate system. While disparaging an approach, solar radiation management, which would quite rapidly solve the temperature rise crisis, and do so at an affordable cost, with really very minimal adverse effects.